Imagine you have just ascended the throne after the time of troubles. The country is falling apart. The treasury is empty. The outskirts are fighting for power. People remember hunger and blood. And most importantly, no one is quite sure who you are and what right you have. And here you are brought a strange thing. In the Alexandrov Sloboda hang 7 portraits of the same czar, but they have 7 different faces. If the people see this and ask a simple question, so who was Ivan the Terrible really? Following this will come a second, and thus, who are you? You have one lever, one directive. What will you choose? To leave the people the truth that can overthrow your power, or to rewrite faces to save the throne? Let's see how it looked in real history. In the museum of the Alexandrovskaya Sloboda hang 7 portraits of one person, 7 personas of Ivan the Terrible. Different artists, different years, different galleries. But when you look at them in a row, you realize one thing. These paintings depict 7 completely different people. Enter the museum's exhibition. Stand in front of the first portrait. Before you is a man with a round, almost moon-like face. His cheeks are full and fleshy. His nose is short, no more than 4 centimeters from the bridge to the tip. His beard is black, thick, and pointed downward. His eyes are widely spaced, his gaze heavy, almost drowsy. This is one image. Move to the second portrait. Here is a completely different person. The face is oval, elongated. The chin is sharp. The cheekbones are not pronounced. The nose is long, with a noticeable hump in the middle. Such a nose is the result of an injury or a feature of cartilage structure. The beard is red, not black. It is divided in 2. Each strand curls separately. The eyes are set close together. The gaze is sharp, almost predatory. This is the second image. The third portrait adds another face. The cheekbones are high, sharply defined, like those of a steppe dweller. The eyes are narrow, with a slight slant, characteristic of Turkic peoples. The nose is straight, without a hump, of medium length. The beard is gray, wide, and splits into 3 streams. The forehead is high, with deep receding hairlines. This is the third person. The fourth portrait depicts a middle-aged man with a square face. The jaw is massive, the chin heavy. The nose is large, fleshy, with the tip slightly turned up. The beard is dark blonde, closely trimmed, without a part. The eyebrows are thick, joined at the bridge of the nose. The gaze is direct, stern. The fourth face. The fifth portrait is entirely different. The face is thin, emaciated. The cheekbones protrude. The cheeks are hollow. The nose is slender, long, bird-like. The beard is sparse, scruffy, as if falling out. The eyes are deeply set, with dark circles. This face belongs to a sick person or an old man. The fifth image. The sixth portrait is of a young man. The face is smooth, without wrinkles. The beard is barely noticeable, more like fuzz. The nose is small and snub. The eyes are large, clear, without heaviness in the gaze. This is the face of a 20-year-old. The sixth face. The seventh portrait is the strangest. The features are blurred, as if the artist did not know who he was painting. The face is average between all the previous ones. The nose is neither short nor long. The beard is neither black nor red, but some indistinct shade. The eyes are neither narrow nor wide. This is a generalized image. The seventh phantom. Open any album on Russian history. Browse through the gallery of royal portraits. Ivan III is recognizable in every parsoon. His grandfather, Vasily III, looks the same in all artists' works. Alexei Mikhailovich, Peter's father, is also identical in any collection. Artists of the 16th and 17th centuries worked from life, or from fresh memory. They memorized facial features, the shape of the nose, the shape of the eyes, the line of the chin. These details were conveyed accurately, because otherwise the client might reject the work. And now take a look at Grozny. Every time a different face. This is not how one paints. This is how one disguises. Historians usually explain this by the difference in sources. One artist saw the Tsar in youth, another in old age. A third painted based on stories. Okay, then look at the portraits of his contemporaries from the same gallery. The boyars who lived alongside Grozny are always depicted alike. Why do the features match among his entourage, but not in the Tsar himself? Now look at the clothing in these portraits. The first portrait shows a man in full royal attire. On his head is a royal crown adorned with precious stones, rubies, emeralds, pearls. Such a crown weighs over a kilogram. On his shoulders are the barms, a shoulder mantle made of gold plates connected by chains. On each plate is a stamped image of saints. The barms symbolize supreme power. They are worn only during coronations and on major church holidays. On the chest is a panagia, a gold medallion with an icon. In the right hand is a scepter, a staff with a double-headed eagle at the top. In the left hand is the orb, a gold sphere with a cross. This is the complete set of royal regalia. The second portrait is of a boyar, not a Tsar. The cap of monomakh without stones and pearls. Instead of a collar, there is a simple collar made of brocade. The hands are empty, without any regalia. The third monk in a kufiya and dark robe, with hands folded in prayer. The fourth merchant in a red kaftan and Safian boots. The fifth is a beggar old man in patched clothes. The sixth is a young boyar in silk with a feather on his cap. The seventh is a mid-level official in a modest kaftan. 7 social roles, 7 statuses, from king to beggar, but all are signed with one name. Now look at the dating of the portraits themselves. The first is marked 1548, the second 1562, the third 1571, the fourth 1579. The others are undated, but the style of writing indicates different decades. If this is one person, he must have lived at least 50 years on the throne. But even then, facial features change gradually, not suddenly from a young man to an old man. One more detail. In the corner of the 3 portraits, there is a royal seal, red, with a double-headed eagle. In 2, there is a boyar's seal, simpler, In one, there is a monastic seal with a cross. In the last one, the seal is scratched off. Why are the portraits of one Tsar certified with different seals? Study the inscriptions under the paintings. 3 say Ivan Vasilievich IV. 2 simply say Tsar Ivan. 1 says Grand Duke of Moscow. In the last inscription, it has been erased so thoroughly that it is impossible to read. Why does one person have 7 different titles? Why do the portraits not match in any detail? This is not one king. This is several people under one name. Now remember other pivotal rulers of Russia. There are legends about substitution with Peter I everywhere. The portraits of Catherine II also differ. There are peculiarities in the descriptions of the appearance of Paul I. Ivan the Terrible is the first in this chain of blurred images. But if Ivan the Terrible is not one person, then who among them ruled for 17 years from Alexander's Sloboda? And why did they all disappear at the same time in 1581? September 1st, 1581. Ermak sets out to conquer Siberia. November of the same year, Tsarevich Ivan, son of Ivan the Terrible, passes away. November 1581. Ivan the Terrible leaves Alexandrovskaya Sloboda forever. 3 points on the map. 2 dates. 1 final. Open any map of the Russian state from the 16th century. Mark 3 places. The first point is Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, the capital of the state. The second is Moscow, the old capital. The third is Siberia, where Yermak's detachment goes. Now calculate the distances. From Siberia to Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, it is more than 2,000 kilometers. How much time does a courier need to cover this distance in the 16th century? At that time, news was transmitted via relay. The courier rode to the next station, delivered the message, and a new courier rode further. The maximum speed on good roads was 100 kilometers per day. From Siberia to the Sloboda, it took a minimum of 20 days of travel. But Grozny leaves the capital simultaneously with the departure of Yermak. Not a month after receiving the news, not a week. At the same time, they knew in advance, all 3. At first glance, this is simply an unhappy year for the Tsar. His son has passed away, problems have begun, he had to leave the capital. But then explain one simple thing. Why did Ivan the Terrible not return to Moscow? The distance is only 130 kilometers. Why did he leave Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, where he invested 17 years of his life? The treasury was moved here. The first Russian printing house operated here. The Boyar Duma convened here. And suddenly everything was abandoned in just 1 month. After the departure of Ivan the Terrible in November 1581, Alexandrovskaya Sloboda was never again a capital. Not a temporary residence, not a place for negotiations. It was closed as an unnecessary site. 17 years built the system. In 1 month, it was rolled up forever. Now look at the very history of the Tsarevich. The official version states that Ivan struck him with a staff in a fit of rage. There is even a painting by Repin, created 300 years after the event. But open modern sources from the 16th century. The Dutch diplomat Isaac Massa writes in his notes from 1609 that the Tsarevich was poisoned with a substance placed in his wine. The English ambassador Jerome Horsey, in his memoirs from 1613, asserts that he passed away from a fever, an illness that lasted 3 days. The third source, a Russian chronicle from the Trinity Sergius Lavra, reports an accident while hunting, where the Tsarevich fell from his horse and struck his head. 4 versions, not a single coincidence. Even the place of the tragedy is named differently. Mass says that it happened in Moscow. Gorsai indicates Alexandrovskaya Sloboda. The chronicle names the road between the Sloboda and Trinity. The date is also vague. Officially, it is the 9th of November 1581, but Gorsy writes October. Massa refers to the beginning of November without a specific date. The chronicle generally speaks of the end of autumn. This is not a murder. This is a legend written 30 years after the event by various people who were not witnesses. Each invented their own version. And then, historians chose the most dramatic version with a staff and made it official. In all turning points of Russian history, one pattern is repeated. The ruler passes away. The capital is moved. A campaign to the outskirts begins. Vladimir Sviatoslavich and the baptism of Rus. Ivan III and the annexation of Novgorod. Peter I and the war with Sweden. The year 1581 follows the same pattern, only the scale is larger. But why exactly did Alexandrovskaya Sloboda become the capital for 17 years? Why was a remote town, which has no roads leading to it, chosen? Any capital in history stands at the intersection of trade routes. Moscow on the Moscow River, Vladimir on the Klyazma, Novgorod on the Volkhov, Kiev on the Dnieper. The river is the artery of the state. Goods, troops, treasure, and provisions are transported along it. Without a river, there is no capital. And Alexandrovskaya Sloboda? It stands on the stream Syraya, which flows into a brook. Open the map of river basins. The basin of the Moscow River, where the Kremlin is located, is marked in white. The Klyazma Basin, where Vladimir, Suzdal, and Alexandrovskaya Sloboda are located, is marked in green. These two basins do not intersect. There is a watershed between them. To get from Moscow to Alexandrovskaya Sloboda by water, a complicated route must be taken. First, 30 kilometers upstream along the Yauza. Then, 7 kilometers of portage on foot through Mytishi with unloading and loading. Next, 30 kilometers downstream along the Klyazma. After that, 50 kilometers upstream along the Voria River, and another 10 kilometers upstream along the Seraya River. 5 transfers, 3 portages, more than a week of travel. In the 16th century, everything was transported by water. The treasury, cannons, grain, goods. Land transport was used only for messengers and small cargo. A cart can carry 300 kilograms. A boat can carry 5 tons. The difference is 17 times. If it is necessary to transport a treasury of 100 tons, 333 carts or 20 boats will be needed. The choice is obvious. But to deliver the cargo to Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, one must follow a route with 5 transfers. Let's calculate the time. The first section along the Yauza, against the current, is 30 kilometers. The speed of the boat against the current is 3 kilometers per hour. That's 10 hours of rowing. The first transfer, pulled through Mytishi for 7 kilometers on foot. The barges are being unloaded. The cargo is being transferred to the carts. The carts go to the next river. On a good road, a cart can travel 20 kilometers a day. 7 kilometers is a third of a day, 8 hours. But this is just the movement. Unloading the barge takes 4 hours. Loading the carts takes another 4. In total, 16 hours. The second transfer. Further, there is water again. The Kliazma flows 30 kilometers. The speed of the boat downstream is 10 kilometers per hour. 3 hours of travel. But first, it is necessary to unload the wagons and load the boats. Again, it takes 8 hours. In total, 11 hours. The third transfer. Now the Vodia River is upstream 50 kilometers, 3 kilometers per hour, 17 hours of rowing. The fourth transfer. And finally, the Saraya River is upstream 10 kilometers, another 3 hours. The fifth transfer. Add the time. 10 hours plus 16 plus 11 plus 17 plus 3. 57 hours of pure time. This does not take into account the nights, because they do not sail at night. Add 4 nights. In total, at least 5 days for one boat. But the capital needs dozens of boats a week. Provision for the court is 30 tons a month, which is 6 boats. Paper for the printing house is 2 tons, 1 boat. Lead for the type is 3 tons, 1 boat. Gunpowder for defense is 5 tons, 1 boat. Each week requires at least 3 boats. Economically, this is madness. Logistically, it is suicide. Okay, let's assume the king chose this place for security reasons, a hard-to-reach fortress where it is difficult to bring in troops. Then answer the question, why transport a printing house here? The first printing press in Russia weighs a ton. It requires a constant supply of paper, lead for type, and inks. If this is a refuge, what kind of printing house is it? If this is a production center, why hide it in the swamps? Historians say that Ivan the Terrible went on a pilgrimage to the Trinity Sergius Lavra and then stopped by Alexandrovskaya Sloboda to rest. Let's check this version on the map. The Trinity Sergius Lavra stands on the Konchura River, a tributary of the Kliazma. It is 70 kilometers from Moscow to the Lavra. If one were to sail along the Moscow River to the Yauza, then up the Yauza to the Kliazma, and finally along the Kliazma to the Konchura, it would take 3 days downstream. It could even be faster if the current is strong. From the Lavra to Alexander's settlement is another 60 kilometers. But the problem is that half of the way must be traveled against the current. First, upstream on the Konchura for 20 kilometers, then another 20 kilometers upstream on the Kliazma. After that, a switch to the Seryaya River and again against the current for 20 kilometers. This is at least 2 days of heavy rowing. And now compare with the opposite way. From Lavra to Moscow is 70 kilometers downstream. 1 day. Without portages, without transfers, without rowing against the current. The boat simply floats downstream. The rowers only steer the direction. What route will a reasonable person choose after a tiring pilgrimage? To return to Moscow in 1 day? Or to trudge to the settlement for 2 days against the current? The answer is obvious. But historians insist that Ivan the Terrible regularly traveled through the settlement. Why? The only explanation in the settlement was something important, for which it was worth enduring inconveniences. Not rest, not a dacha. Something that required regular presence. something that could not be moved to Moscow. If Ivan the Terrible had wanted to move the capital from Moscow, he had options. Vladimir on the Klyazma, the old capital, a large city. Suzdal near Vladimir, a trading hub. Yaroslavl on the Volga, a direct route to the Caspian. All three are on navigable rivers with existing infrastructure. But he chose Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, a place without roads. This is not the choice of a ruler. This is the choice of someone who hides. But if this is not the capital, then what is it? Look at the walls of the fortress. The capital of the Russian state for 17 years. The residence of the most cruel czar. The lair of the oprichniki. And the walls are 2 bricks thick. Measure the walls of Alexander's settlement. 40 centimeters. 2 bricks. Red brick from the 16th century measures 30 by 15 by 8 centimeters. 2 such bricks, plus a layer of mortar, give exactly 40 centimeters. This is the minimum thickness for a load-bearing wall of a building. For a fortress, this is nothing. The Kremlin in Moscow is 3.5 meters. The wall consists of 2 rows of bricks with internal filling made of broken stone and lime mortar. This construction withstands cannonball impacts. The cannonball gets stuck in the filling, not penetrating the wall through and through. The Novgorod Detinets is 4 meters. There it is generally a double wall with a gap filled with earth. The Kazan Kremlin is 3 meters of solid masonry, and Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, 40 centimeters of brick. A cannonball weighing 20 kilograms can penetrate such a wall from a distance of 300 meters. 16th century artillery could fire up to a kilometer. 1 shot and there is a hole in the wall. This is not a fortress. This is a fence. Check the embrasures. They are absent. A real fortress has embrasures on 3 levels. The lower tier is for shooting at the approaches. The middle tier is for shooting along the wall. The upper tier is for long-range fire. In the Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, the walls are smooth. Not a single embrasure. Note the towers. There are 4 at the corners. They are round, low, without overhanging battlements. Real fortress towers of the 16th century have machicolations, overhanging galleries with openings for dropping stones and boiling water on attackers. Here, the towers are decorative. Inside, there are empty spaces with no military purpose. Where is the moat? It is not there. Any fortress has a moat with a depth of at least 5 meters and a width of 10. The moat is filled with water or lined with stakes. This is the first line of defense. In Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, the ground is level right up to the walls. You can approach closely from any side. The most obvious explanation is a monastery, a peaceful place, walls for beauty. But here ruled Ivan the Terrible. Here they tortured the boyars. Here they kept the oprichniki. What do the executioners need a monastery fence for? Examine the main gate closely. It was later cut into an already finished wall. Traces of work are visible. The brick is chipped unevenly. The edges are filled with a lighter mortar than the main masonry. Iron clamps are welded on top to prevent the wall from collapsing from the broken opening. Originally, there was no entrance from this side. Where is the original entrance? From the side of the Seryaya River, not from the side of Moscow, not from the side of the road, from the river. The fortress opens to the water. This is not defense. This is a pier. A pier for what? What was brought here by the narrow river? Go down to the cellars. Under each church of the Alexandrov Sloboda, there are cellars, deep, perfectly laid with bricks, with ventilation shafts. In the museum, there is a room called the Marfa Chambers. The plaque states that Marfa Alexeyevna, the sister of Peter the Great, was held here in 1698. She was accused of conspiring against her brother, was tonsured as a nun, and was kept here for 10 years. However, descriptions from the 16th century mention another Marfa, Marfa Sobakina, the third wife of Ivan the Terrible. She passed away 15 days after the wedding from poison in 1571. One place, 2 centuries, 2 people, 1 name. I too initially thought it was just a coincidence, until I delved into the archives. Martha Sobakina was a victim of Ivan the Terrible, poisoned in the 16th century. Martha Alexeyevna was a victim of Peter, tonsured in the 17th century. Both in one place, both erased from history. Historians attributed these rooms to Peter's sister, so the name of Ivan the Terrible's wife would disappear forever. Under the Murphy rooms, there is a basement. The ceiling height is 4 meters. An adult can raise their hand up and not reach the vault. One could ride a horse in. The vaults are made of red brick in a technique called ribbed vaulting. 4 arches converge in the center, distributing the load. This technique is used in industrial buildings where a large open space is needed without load-bearing columns in the middle. Ventilation shafts run vertically through all floors of the building. The diameter of each shaft is 30 centimeters. This is sufficient for air circulation in a space with a volume of 200 cubic meters. Why does the basement need ventilation? A cellar for food does not require the intake of fresh air. On the contrary, a cellar needs stagnant cold air so that supplies do not spoil. Ventilation is needed where people work or materials that emit gases are stored. The walls of the basement are covered with whitewash. The lime whitewash protects against mold and fungus. But under the layers of whitewash, the brickwork is visible. The bricks are laid with perfect precision. The joints between the bricks are even, no more than 1 centimeter. The mortar does not crumble, does not fall out. This is the work of professional masons, not amateur monks. The basement floor is laid with stone slabs. Each slab is 1 meter by 1 meter and 10 centimeters thick. The weight of one slab is about 250 kilograms. To lay such slabs evenly, a perfectly leveled base and lifting mechanisms are required. The slabs lie tightly against each other without gaps. Heavy loads can be rolled on carts over such a floor. In the corners of the basement, traces of metal fixtures can be seen. Iron rings with a diameter of 10 centimeters are embedded in the walls. There are 8 such rings, 2 in each corner at different heights. Chains or ropes could be attached to these rings. But for what purpose? Prisoners do not need 8 points of attachment. However, for lifting mechanisms or for securing large equipment, such rings are necessary. Under the Trinity Cathedral, there is a basement of 100 square meters. Under the Crucifixion Bell Tower, there is another one. The masonry is the same everywhere. There are ventilation shafts everywhere. Why do churches need storage basements? Churches are not built like this. This is a base. Base for what? Go up to the top of the Crucifixion Bell Tower, but you won't be able to go up. The entrance is closed to tourists. The official reason is the monastery's equipment. What equipment? At the very top of the bell tower, there are loudspeakers. The nuns play a recording of the bell ringing according to a schedule. Why are there no real bells ringing? Because there have never been any bells there. Study the structure of the spire from the ground. A metal rod. Composite, made of several sections connected by couplings. The lower section has a diameter of 15 centimeters, made of iron. The middle section is 10 centimeters. The upper section is 5 centimeters. This tapering towards the top is characteristic of antenna masts, where it is important to reduce wind load. The cross at the top is not simple. It is a complex structure made of many rays. The central ray is vertical, 2 meters high. From it extend 4 horizontal rays, each 1.5 meters long. From the horizontal rays, diagonal branches extend 1 meter. In total, there are 12 metal elements directed in different directions. Each element ends with a finial, a sphere, or a tip. Such a configuration is ideal for receiving electromagnetic waves. Each beam operates as a separate receiver, tuned to its own frequency. Long beams capture low frequencies. Short beams capture high frequencies. Together, they cover a wide range. This is how modern broadband antennas are designed. Now the dome under the spire. An octagonal pyramid. Each face is covered with copper sheets. Copper is a good conductor of electricity. When oxidized, copper turns green. But here the sheets are clean, almost shiny. This means they are regularly replaced or cleaned. Why does the church need clean copper on the dome? For beauty, whiteness or gilding would have sufficed. Inside the dome is an empty space. The height from the floor to the top of the pyramid is 20 meters. The volume is about 1,000 cubic meters. The walls are smooth and plastered. Such a space creates acoustic resonance. A sound uttered in the center of the hall is greatly amplified and reflects off the walls. But there are no bells. What is the purpose of the resonance then? Under the dome, at a height of 15 meters, there is a platform, a wooden floor reinforced on metal beams. From this platform, a staircase begins inside the spire. The staircase is spiral, made of iron, with narrow steps. It leads to the very top, where loudspeakers are installed. The staircase is modern, made no earlier than the 20th century. But the anchors for it are old, embedded in the brickwork of the 16th century. If you think this is an exaggeration, look at the ban. Tourists are not allowed to go up. Why? What is so secret in the monastery's equipment, apart from the loudspeakers with recordings? The Spassky Tent Bell Tower. Historians call it the first tent bell tower in Rus. But a tent is not a dome. It is an octagonal pyramid. This shape creates a special resonance, amplifying and directing sound waves. All tent churches of Russia were built in the 16th century. They all stand along rivers. They all have metal spires. The Church of Ascension in Kolomenskoye, 1532. It stands on the banks of the Moskva River. The height of the spire is 12 meters. Inside is an octagonal hall with perfect acoustics. Beneath the church is a basement with ventilation shafts. The Church of John the Baptist in Diakovo, 1547. It is located near Kolomenskoye, also on the bank of the Moscow River. 5 tents, each with a metal spire. The central tent is taller than the others. Under the central tent is a resonant hall. The 4 side tents are smaller, but also have halls inside. This is not one station, but a complex of 5 points. The Cathedral of Intercession on the Red Square, which we know as St. Basil's Cathedral, 1561. 9 domes of different heights, each with a metal finial. The central dome is 47 meters tall. The 8 side domes range from 30 to 40 meters. Under each dome is a separate hall. 9 halls, 9 resonators, 9 antennas. This is the largest node in Moscow. All these churches were built during Ivan the Terrible, all in the period from 1530 to 1580, all during the reign from the Alexandrov Sloboda. After 1581, tent churches stopped being built. Dome-shaped, onion-shaped ones appear, but not tent ones. The technology disappears. This is not an architectural style. This is a unified network that was built over 50 years and was disconnected in 1581. Network of what? For what purpose? And why was it permanently shut down in 1581? Alexandrovskaya Sloboda was not the capital. It was the last working hub of a system called Tartaria. Throughout the territory of the remnants of this system, a network of river transshipment points operated. Tent-like bell towers served as relays. The basements under the churches were warehouses. The entrances from the rivers provided logistics. Alexandrovskaya Sloboda is one of these points. Not a capital, a hub. Ivan the Terrible is not a person, but a position, or several princes from different lands, coordinating the remnants of the system. 7 portraits, 7 people. They ruled in turns or simultaneously from different centers, each with their own title, each with their own role in this network. 1581 is the year the cleanup was completed. Siberia is the last stronghold of resistance. Yermak was sent there not to conquer, but to finish off. Alexandrovskaya Sloboda is the last node of the network. It is closed forever. Tsarevich Ivan is the last one who remembered how the system worked. He was eliminated. 3 dots. 2 months. The end of the old world. 20 years later, the Romanovs come to power. 1613. Mikhail Fyodorovich is the first Tsar of the new dynasty. He is 16 years old. He is elected at the Zemsky Sobor from a multitude of candidates. Why him? Because he is the nephew of Ivan the Terrible's first wife, Anastasia Romanova. This connection gives the dynasty legitimacy, supposedly continuing the line of the Terrible. But what do the Romanovs do in the early years of their reign? They commission the writing of a new history. The official chronicle, which we know today, begins to take shape under Mikhail Fyodorovich. All rulers prior to the Romanovs receive clear evaluations. Ivan III is the wise collector of lands. Vasily III is the continuer of his father's work. Ivan the Terrible is a cruel tyrant. Boris Godunov is a usurper. The time of troubles is chaos and lawlessness. Each previous ruler is assigned a role. Each event receives an explanation. Alekander's settlement becomes a place where Ivan the Terrible carried out executions and lived with the Oprichniki. Yermak transforms into a folk hero who conquered wild Siberia. Everything fits into a beautiful linear story with a beginning, middle, and end. But at the same time, documents are destroyed. In 1626, the archive of the embassy office burns down. Diplomatic correspondence, treaties, and maps from the 16th century are lost. In 1632, a fire in the Kremlin destroys the royal library. In 1654, a new fire occurs in Moscow. Old documents in monasteries and boyar houses burn. In the 50 years of the rule of the first Romanovs, 6 major fires occur in Moscow. Each time, the archives burn. Coincidence? Fires in a wooden city are a common occurrence. But why do the document storage facilities suffer each time? The Marfa chambers are a special confusion. One place, 2 Marfas, 2 centuries. This is done to confuse the researcher with dates and to make them stop seeking the truth about the 16th century. The overlay of events creates the illusion of continuity, but in reality, it hides a rupture. That very rupture when the old system was replaced by the new one. We think that Ivan the Terrible is a name. It is a title. We think that Alexandrov Sloboda is a capital. It is a station. We think that 1581 is an unfortunate year. It is the year of purging. One question remains. If Alexandrovsky settlement was the last node, then where did the other nodes go? They still stand, in your city, under the guise of old churches. Open the map. Find a church built in the 16th century. Look at its roof. Is it a tent roof or a dome? Look at the basement photo, if there is one. And if the church has a tent roof with a metal spire, the entrance is from the riverside and not from the roadside. The basement is over 3 meters high, and it was built between 1530 and 1580. Congratulations, you have found the station. And now ask the rector why the entrance to the bell tower is closed for visiting. And why is the basement called a storage room, although there is not a single shelf there? Do not expect an honest answer. They themselves do not know what they are guarding. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell so you won't miss new investigations. There are still many mysteries and discoveries ahead. We will continue to search for evidence, ask uncomfortable questions, and explore what official science avoids. Because the truth is always nearby. You just need to want to see it.